Hey, how you doing today, guest? Got the Honorable Judge Joe Brown on today.
Well, yeah, man,
Hey, how
I'm
you
all
doing,
right.
brother?
Well, you got me
You doing all
early
right
in the
today?
morning. I don't
Yeah,
slop any damn hogs, feed any chickens, or milk cows, so this is still sleep time for me. Yeah, I had to shave. Anyway, what's up? Sunday morning, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I've been trying to get with you for a couple weeks to talk about this Equality Act (BLM). So let's get right to it.
Black lesbians matter or bitch lesbian mania. Okay, one or the other. Yeah.
Well,
Front organization. I don't like front organizations that do this bait and switch thing. I went through the 60s. I graduated from UCLA at 69. So, we had BSUs. There was a Panther Party out there in LA, various community organizations. And we had these little front organizations that had a different agenda we called pimping the movement or pimping the revolution. And that's what BLM is doing. It is raising funds for LGBT queer and for Act Blue, which is a Democratic fundraising front organization. And on the BLM site, they even break down where the contributions to them are going in terms of specific amounts to various political parties and, well, candidates. And I noticed that the Office of General Counsel had okayed putting down a Black Lives Matter banner on a federal building, which is a violation of the Hatch Act. They said they weren't supporting political parties, but obviously the incompetent jerks did not go through and look at the manifesto, which is clearly one indicating specific fundraising, political activity, and donations to specific candidates. So, you know, incompetence in office, or rather, incompetence in government, or incompetence in somebody's legal department. There's a lot of it because the profession isn't what it used to be.
let's say something about that front organization. Now, if you go back and look at Joe Biden's campaign, he didn't hardly have that much money at first, and now he's got over $140 million raised in a month and a half off of Act Blue or BLM or whatever you want to call it. So isn't that something?
In other words, support and queerness. This politically correct thing now, you can say anything you want about the old line people, but you can't say anything about the new ones without somebody's politically correct idiots jumping into the fray talking about you hurt somebody's feelings.
Well, go
Well, you
what
know,
go to that thing. I want you to explain to the people about the
the
like
Equality Act.
well, no, I'm not talking about that yet. I'm talking about the thing in De Blasio and shops and painting the street in
Oh, yeah.
New York.
See, what it is they've got the 1934 Hatch Act, and it's a federal act that says it is illegal, it's criminal to uh, use public employees from any agency that receives federal funds for purposes of political campaigning or to support any particular cause or candidate. So New York certainly gets the money. They've got people working for the city of New York out there painting a BLM message. It's in the black and yellow colors of BLM. So that takes it out of the realm of concept and puts it squarely into the realm of a political entity that is raising funds for political parties, a political party, a cause, and specific political candidates. So that is a clear violation of the Hatch Act, and they all ought to be prosecuted.
Okay, let's get to this Equality Act now. Go ahead and I gotta get you to rip this off.
Oh, the anti-lynch bill that Juicy Jesse set up with that fake noose around his neck that the Chicago police have him on video buying during the week leading up to Halloween. He bought it at a costume shop. He was accompanied by his two Nigerian friends that supposedly jacked him up. And Miss Kim Fox, idiot, she claimed she was going to do something about reform, but she didn't, and she dropped the charges because she said it was not violent and they didn't have time to prosecute such things, but tying up the police department for hundreds of hours apparently is a no concern to hers. I'm not surprised. The idiot did something and that I cannot fathom unless it was intentional, and that she took funds available for community development and gave a big chunk of it directly to certain street gangs, which has promoted the horrendous violence that has occurred over several weekends over the last month or so. Apparently, the money was used to arm up and resupply, but that is unfathomably stupid.
Well,
But
I
I'm not
haven't.
surprised she got elected in the lowest mayoral vote in the city of Chicago in the last 80 years in terms of the people that turned out.
Yeah, now I will say this about this though. If you realize it's a little thing going on in Chicago right now where they want her to resign. I think, but then I
Uh,
looked at
yeah, they
another.
should. That's just incompetent. She and her, what is it, girlfriend, husband, whatever.
Yeah, but you see, and I looked at a post today, and it says that you have a record number of LGBT candidates running for office. Is the LGBT the only people that can run for office now? I mean, god damn, man. You know, let's get some straight folks running. What do you think, Judge?
It would be nice, especially since that queerness crowd only represents about 6% of the population, contrary to their representation. I mean, they have their First Amendment rights, but we've got a situation that Orwell put out there with his book Animal Farm. Animals had a revolution and took over a farm, and they had some principles, and one of them was all animals were equal. But shortly, the pigs took over, so it became all animals are equal, but pigs are more equal than others. And I guess queerness is more important than anything else. Now, I don't put all homosexuals into this LGBT queer thing. And by the way, that's what it says on their website, queer and questioning, or this BLM affiliated adjunct, because BLM says, third paragraph from the end of their manifesto, what we believe it says, a queer affirming
Network.
yes. So take them at their own words. This queerness is just queerness, and it doesn't embrace all homosexuals, most of whom comply with the edicts of decency. You know, you keep it in the bedroom like everybody else does their sexual activity instead of trying to parade it down the street with your dick hung out or boobs bare in some, what is it, queer pride parade, a gay pride parade.
Okay, now I was looking at a video this morning of a girl laying in the middle of the street naked with the police force. Um, had the batons up and stuff. So that's very interesting. You got somebody laying naked in the middle of the street as a protest. That's very interesting, right?
Yeah, well, was she cute or was she one of these 300 pounders?
She was small frame, but it just they had her back turned, but they didn't show her face. But I mean, it's just that. I mean, that's not protest to me. I don't know what you're
I mean,
doing.
that's just lewdness. The deal is, look, it's somehow or another, this has gotten way out of line. Most humans are into the same reproductive strategies that Mother Nature has got every other higher order animal into and has worked several billion years to put together. Most humans are into trying to be effective and healthy individuals so they can move around. Most humans have some concept of, okay, there are ideals that maybe a professional athlete may approach on the masculine side, or a model or a movie starlet might approach on the female side. But, you know, let's face it, some are not exactly the most desirable candidate from a breeding aspect. So this group is trying to subvert Mother Nature. And one of the things is you've got these drag queens running around that want to become, what in the hell do they call themselves? Trans women or something? Drag
Yeah,
queens?
trans men or something like yeah.
Oh crap. They're not women. They don't have vaginas and ovaries, and they don't have periods. They got penises, balls, and hairy armpits that aren't supposed to be shaved, and can grow mustaches, I think. But in any event, see, birds, mammals, there are differences between the sexes. There's either an olfactory thing, that's smell, there's an auditory thing, that's sound, there's a visual thing, and the males and females look different, sound different, smell different. And humans, since we don't run around naked too much, except lying in the middle of the street apparently, and everything's covered up, there's a cultural convention that is developed over long eons, and that is that the clothing is supposed to reflect what's underneath. So when you get these drag queens going around trying to fake it, it is what it is. Now that's back to this queer thing, Juicy Jesse Smollett, Smollett, or whatever his name is, doing what he did with this noose so that you could throw this out there, and Kamala Harris, the fake Negro, and Cory Booker, the House Negro, can amend this bill that Conyers came up with 23 years ago, and it's been tabled ever since. And they slapped the label on it, the Anti-Lynch Act. Now, I've read it. You have too. And
Right.
I mean, I've only been in this law business for about a half century, but I can see no reference to lynching in that bill. I can see nothing to do with black folk in that bill. I can see a whole lot of stuff dealing with,
LGBT.
yeah, LGBT, queer stuff, not just homosexuality, but those who want to make a big deal of it. And the big deal is an overt public display. The other thing that is most troubling is it has language in there that basically says you cannot discriminate against someone if they have a medical or mental condition that causes them to have proclivity to deal with certain kind of sex acts. And what they're talking about is pedophiles. I won't go into the technical language, but when I sentence someone for being a sex offender and they were a pedophile, quite often that language was involved in describing what they were. So add a few more words and you've legitimated pedophilia. There is also this thing in there that if you put the clauses together is driving toward removing age as a factor in sexual consent, which is
From
nothing but
them.
pedophilia. And
From
then
them.
you get the BLM queer affirming network. They lift verbatim in their next to last paragraph in there. What we believe is they lifted verbatim from NAMBLA, North American Man Boy Love Association, that's been pretty much driven underground by the FBI pounding at them. I guess they did something useful there. So we need to be vigilant. It's like they get paid to come in and corrupt the children. I mean, okay, fine. Let things be elective if you want to put something about gay studies in high school, but you don't have to make it mandatory before somebody gets to the 8th grade. You don't even have mandatory sex education before the 8th grade, but you've got Illinois, California, and then they have a lesbian around here in Memphis who is on the county commission, and it turns out she had been concealing. She had been an executive with a private agency that had contracted with the county to provide the educational services for the students in this county. Her name is Tammy Sawyer, and that's bad. And she's pushing to put this same kind of agenda on the table for studies around here. And frankly, I don't get it because, frankly, these people don't have many children in the system. So they're
Right.
6% of the population, and maybe not 1 or 2% of the children impacted by them, but they want to take over the other 90-some percent.
Well, I have a
Like Mama used to say, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you can't go anywhere else. Well, hell, that's the same thing they're trying to do, is condition these children. So they'll look at some drag queens and start thinking this stuff is all right. Where, what is it? They're claiming there are 58 genders, which is nonsense. I mean, if you average out humanity, there are effectively only 2. And that gender thing used to match straight up and down with sex, male, female, and
well, I've seen some disturbing things lately.
anonymous.
I've seen some disturbing things lately. Like I had a friend of mine tell me that now they talking about taking the men's and women's aisle out the store and they're gonna just make it, clothes, no, women or men aisle, just unisex clothes. That's kind of weird in itself. That's sick. Now I want to say something to you, Judge.
Wait a minute. That's part of a mess. Back in the 50s, not 50s, 50 years ago, back in the 60s, they started this unisex clothing thing for children so that boys would be raised like girls. Boys and girls would have the same hairstyles. They would wear the same clothing, play with the same toys. No cap pistols, no water guns, no war toys, and boys were to be encouraged to play with dolls. This unisex clothing can be a mess. Now, okay, I can see something like a shirt. Hell, a t-shirt's pretty androgynous, but come on now. What are you talking about? The same clothing like Macy's? You seen the Macy's ad with that freak who's in his about 40s? He looks like black, of course, with a dress on with some short knee pants on underneath it and some loafers, yellow loafers. I think one of them has on, and a pink dress or something like that. Really crazy. No, black loafers with a pink dress, and the other one had a blue dress and some yellow loafers. I mean, it's like, what in the hell? Is that what they're talking about? I draw the line at these little tight ankle pants that they're trying to get on. I never did like Michael Jackson any damn way. So why in the hell would I want to, as a grown man, walk around looking like that with tight pants you can't even get your feet in and out of?
Let's say something here. Now, I was looking at. I sent you an article the other day of the one of the Black Lives Matter organizations who was talking about defunding the police. Got
Yeah,
arrested
got busted for
on
yeah,
child pornography charges, right? And
yes.
I'm just saying they're revealing the plan. You got to understand they got words from NAMBLA. NAMBLA actually was supporting Barack Obama in his campaign too. So when you look at NAMBLA and they're supporting a presidential candidate, that go to show you they were trying to push pedophilia 10 years ago. still trying to do
Oh
it.
yeah, I mean, the NAMBLA's been around longer than that. I remember I was dabbling around the hallways of law school. I went back to look at some things after I'd been in D.C. during this intern thing with a think tank. It was 1972, when I remember they had posted the Gay Rights Manifesto of 1972, and they had a section called State Action. And one of the things they were talking about is their brothers and sisters who were into pedophilia, and also I think it was point 0.5 or 0.7. I don't remember exactly. It's been 50 years since I looked at it, but or 48 years. But it said again this thing about removing age as a factor in sexual consent. So it's crazy.
Are you? Let me ask you something, Judge. I wanted to bring something to you. Over the weekend. I mean, this is kind of off script, but I'm going to bring this to you, and we'll get back to some other points. The passing of C.T. Vivian, C.T. Vivian, of course, and about the passing of John Lewis, who was reported to died last week, and then they didn't. Then they finally admit he died this week, which is kind of odd in itself. But start with C.T. Vivian. What do you think about him? If you know anything about him, if not,
I don't know who that is. Who is C.T. Vivian?
C.T. Vivian was another civil rights leader. He was died in '95, but that's okay. So we're
Never heard of him. But you mean that homosexual cabal that was involved in the Civil Rights Act action that was going on back in the 50s and early 60s? There were a lot of them.
well, let's get to John Lewis, since I know you know about John Lewis.
Oh,
You heard about John Lewis pretty
a
more, but
long time.
okay. Now
So
I want
he
you to
put
explain the civil rights
in
movement, because you
what you
know more
call
about.
legislatively. He did nothing for the black constituency he was supposed to represent, but everything for the gay constituency. And quite frankly, I mean, I hate to speak harshly of the dead, but he was a damn fool pushing for gun control in the face of what's going on now and what is confronting the black communities of this country. You want to disarm us? What kind of a damn fool are you? Well, I guess he may find out if there's a heaven or a hell, and if he's blessed or damned. I guess he knows by now, doesn't he, if there is such a place or places. But
Well,
anyway,
well, let's
I
see.
thought it was absolutely reprehensible, inexcusable, and just, and it just bothers me. So back to this little crazy stuff, tight pants. I wear an ankle holster all the time, carry a piece down there. So how the hell you gonna carry a piece in an ankle holster and you got skin tight cuffs at the bottom of your pants?
Well, I wanted to get to one thing. I know you since you were 73, and I just say happy
Well,
late
yeah,
belated birthday to you, born
happy
anniversary.
to me too, cancer folk. Anyway, go ahead, young man.
So I wanted to say that I know you've had a little problem with the way the civil rights movement was organized. You see, on the West Coast, y'all didn't like that civil rights stuff.
Like that. See, my old man's generation, they fought in World War II, they fought in Korea, and their attitude, well, I'll be damned if I'm going to be down on my knees praying while some damn redneck beats me across the head until some other ones feel guilty about it. Said I was either killing crowds of Japanese, and I'll be damned if I won't kill some redneck if he raises a hand to me. So they didn't buy into that civil rights bit. A whole lot of people on the generation before the boomers did not. And see, you can't blame the boomers for that stuff, because the first of us was born in 1946. So 1956, the oldest of us was about 10 years old. And me, I was born in 47, so I was 9. And one of the things I thought and think is very despicable about the whole civil rights thing is this deliberate strategy of taking young children, infants, and toddlers and those still in elementary school, and putting them out there so that the racist police would beat them, put water hoses on them, put dogs on them so that you could generate public opinion. You don't do that to children. That is just despicable. That's something you would expect communists and Nazis to do, or fascists. Fascisti.
Well, I would say, like I know you was on the West Coast at the time, and you had the Watts Rebellion, you had the
Yeah.
Black Panthers going the
Yeah.
government building, and you
I
knew.
thought, by the way, let me say something. I'm privy to that whole discussion. I recruited John Huggins and Bungie Carter and Nathaniel Clark, Elaine Brown, Geronimo Pratt, aka G, to UCLA. They were smart people. And we had some internal discussion. And let's say the Los Angeles Panther Party was very much against the Oakland Party going in there and marching off into the state legislature with guns. It didn't achieve a damn thing, but it quickly got some draconian California gun laws in place within a few weeks. It was grandstanding. And if you're going to have a movement, you do not grandstand unless it is for some specific purpose other than trying to go for bad.
Okay.
Now, that was
You were
that
also
wasn't good.
present at the killing in the 1969 hall at UCLA or something like that.
1968 in April. Well, for that, 1968 at Campbell Hall. Myself, Clifford Stewart, a guy named John Johnson, some Chicano brothers, and some Asian brothers. We all got together with one or two black faculty. There weren't many. And there was this building they were going to tear down known as Campbell Hall. And we convinced the administration, I use that euphemism, convinced, loosely, to not tear that building down and allow it to be used for minority studies. That minority studies department is still going on at UCLA, and now it's got one of the biggest buildings on campus, known as Bunch Hall, after Ralph Bunch, who was a high official with the UN. He was also black. But now it's a nice little, what do the kids call it, boule thing, bourgeois thing, where you've got all of the professors in there with their white spouses, either opposite or same sex, and they're going around nibbling cheese and crackers and sipping on wine as they have their erudite discussions about blackness. And there's one or two that were involved up until recently that we couldn't get to participate in a damn BSU event or demonstration or protest or what we used to call direct action event. I'll leave that up to your imagination, but it had nothing to do with the demonstration, and those things were done quietly, hopefully with nobody looking while they
Well,
were done. But they could not be involved in these things, but yes, yet they benefited from them. And again, that's another instance of pimping the movement or pimping the revolution.
so you
Yeah,
said that
we
you had
did.
a problem with the US organization.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get to that, but we opened this building up, right? So what went on was a great debate on what was to be put into this minority affairs thing. Ron Karinga with the US organization had become known as a snitch. He and his people took shorthand notes at various black organizational meetings And interestingly enough, within a few days to a couple of weeks, everybody at the meetings would be snatched downtown LA from wherever they were by the FBI and interrogated. And the FBI would quote exactly what you had said. So we started going through protocols where nobody takes notes, but they kept doing it anyway. And they would go, the Mahalana needs to know. Well, brother, why are you taking these shorthand notes? And the last time you were in here, I got brought in by the FBI within 4 days, and they wanted to know why I said what I said. And I told it was none of that damn business. I was exercising my First Amendment rights. Meanwhile, I'll take the fifth because I have no explanation to give you. By the way, you can tell the police you know nothing about something, but if you're talking to a federal agent, the best course is to simply refuse to make a statement because they can explain to you while you are there why you are being interrogated. So that would be translated into you knew something about it because they told you. And later in life, I would represent these people who would have 27, 28, 32 count indictments, and I'd get not guilties on everything except one. And that would be the count that said making a knowingly false statement to a federal official. So don't try to explain yourself with a federal official, just take the fifth. Or just say, I don't have any damn thing to say, or I want a lawyer, or get me one, or I want to get my own. By the way, now they don't have to tell you you have a right to one anymore, but that's another thing. So we had this thing set up, and Karinga's boys were known snitches, but Karinga set up Kwanzaa, 1966, in Lamert Park off of Crenshaw. And the purpose was so black folk would talk and they could better get information to snitch. So they had various rackets they were running, and they got a free reign to do that. And they also started running a Murder Incorporated for LAPD's SIS unit and the FBI and some other shadowy things. This was before it really got organized, but they did a lot of killing. A lot of people I know got killed by the US organization.
Bunchy Carter.
Well, I haven't got to him yet.
Okay.
Uh, a lot of people were active in the movement back then, but they got killed and uh, wound up 16, 17 bodies found on a farm that the US organization controlled in an outlying county. Orange County, I believe, which is right outside of LA County. So it was dangerous dealing with these people. At this point, Karinga was trying to get around to various colleges and universities and take over the new Black Studies programs so that they could use them to have 4-year courses in what we used to call usology. Everywhere we are, us is their slogan, was their slogan. So at UCLA, we had what was likely to be one of the best funded projects. So the US organization started coming out there, and they got all these little namby poo loafer wearing types like Barack Obama or Obama. And they started slapping them upside the head, putting pistols to their heads, beating up the girls and stuff. But the hardcore folks they didn't mess with, but we didn't realize the extent of the intimidation that they'd been carrying out against the other people. So things were coming to a head, and the students that were legitimate BSU members and community folk and the Panther Party did not like this move or this oppression that the US organization was trying to carry out on blacks, other black folk that had legitimate purposes. So there was a resistance. violence. Now, there was a meeting in Campbell Hall that took place at about 11 o'clock. It was over by noon, and it was taking place in a cafeteria in Campbell Hall, broad daylight. So I had just left the meeting, gone up the staircase, walking up to the third floor where I had an office. I ran into Elaine Brown and we started talking. Well, we heard a commotion and we ran down to see four US organization people running down the hallway. John Hudgens had a 357 and fired 6 shots at them as they ran down the hallway. Hit one guy right in the back, but apparently it hit his scapula and didn't penetrate the thorax. He kept running. When we got in the cafeteria, John fell backwards, and Bunchy was face down but was propped up on one elbow, and he was moaning. He'd been shot in the chest twice at close range, and John had been shot in the back twice. It, according to what I heard from the autopsy report, destroyed his aorta and one upper chamber of his heart, but he still managed to fire 6 shots before he fell over. And shortly, blood was bubbling out of his mouth as his lungs emptied. So we all gathered up guns and stuff and got them out of the cafeteria. Gwen, I won't give her last name because she's gotten out of it, and Elaine took the pistols and vámonos muy rapidamente. Meanwhile, when LAPD got there shortly, they rounded up all of the black folk they could find, and we all got handcuffed in a room to some chairs. Interestingly enough, there was a black vice chancellor of UCLA who was the acting chancellor, while the regular chancellor was taking a short sabbatical. So he was hosting a meeting in the chancellor's dining room with the chancellors of various European universities. Well, LAPD kicked in the door, several of them, and jacked the black chancellor up, rammed a shotgun in his back, handcuffed him, and marched him close to a mile across campus back to Campbell Hall to embarrass him at high noon in broad daylight without a cloud in the sky. And he too got handcuffed in there. We stayed in there for 4 hours until some black detective came in there and told them they had to let us go so we could piss anyway. But we all told the same story, so they wound up letting us go. And then there was another handkerchief head Negro who used to put down his active participation in the BSU, which was a lie. And he went around to various and sundry places where Elaine and Gwen had left the pistols, and this fool gathered up everybody's hardware, put them in a box, came back to campus and left them right there out in the open at the foot of the main staircase so the police would find them. So everybody was disarmed for some weeks, which was not cool in the face of all of the violence going on. Meanwhile, this guy who later became a presidential advisor that we all said was owed an ass whipping until the day he died. And unfortunately, he died about 10 years ago, so he escaped the ass whipping. But he was one of these Barack Obama types who pimped the revolution and talked about what he was doing. And if you read his resume, it was full of lies about his participation in the black movement because he was a coward. He didn't have the nerve. And I remember one instance when it got real hot. We approached this fool and said, all right, man, you know, you've been claiming it's time to deal with it. And he said, "Brothers, excuse me, it's not that I don't appreciate everything you have done to get me in here, but I can't afford to jeopardize my career. You'll have to go on without me, but I'll be there in spirit." Grab him. So we kind of manhandled him, and there was a brother on each arm, and we were holding him up while we were confronting some various police agencies, and it was getting violent, but he was shaking so badly he couldn't stand up. So he pissed on himself. He had some gray slacks, and there was a big piss stain down his left leg, and a big puddle of piss around his left foot, which spread to both feet. So the two brothers holding him just let go, and the punk collapsed in his own puddle of urine and crawled off. And when he regained his composure, he took off at a dead run.
Well, let me
But
say
he
something
used
to you,
to
Judge.
brag about how he was so active in the BSU.
Well, let me say something to you, Judge. I've what's the woman name? We had you had Angela Stanton on that day, and I just got look at my phone that they're gonna name a challenger by tomorrow to take John Lewis' seat. Wow, I mean the man just died. I mean you got a challenger
Well,
already.
yeah, but we had Ms. King on, and I liked what she was saying. And quite frankly, I'm hoping nobody votes for a damn Democrat across the board. I don't like Republicans, but the Democratic Party, if they get any further control, is going to sink us back into this miasma of who gets to piss in the girls' bathroom besides the girls, and more gun control nonsense in the face of what's going on right now. And quite frankly, it's the dumbest political stunt I can think of that they could pull off, but they're trying. I mean, I've gone into my favorite gun shops and they don't even have any guns left in the stores. For goodness sakes, they've
I
sold
was in
so
the
many.
range yesterday, Judge, and
So
yeah, one of
yeah,
my
I
buddies.
went to the range myself yesterday, and they didn't have any out there either. So, with all of these new gun owners, the Democrats are stupid enough to talk about they want to take their new guns. Oh no! But I hope they keep talking that nonsense and get turned out, because we do not need to be disarmed in this day and time. And it's not saying that there is anything against white people. It's just when you have an armed people, you have respectful people who act in a mannerable fashion with courtesy and diplomacy. You speak politely, sir, or may I help you? You don't, yay, man, what's going on? No, you don't play like that unless you're a fool. But back to this thing in the cafeteria. There were four members of the US organization. Two of them were twins. Everybody knew who they were. The police were given the names. They even gave them their mama's address. And interestingly enough, they only got the two accessories. Johnny Cochran represented them, the late Johnny Cochran. They got convicted of second-degree murder, and they got sentenced to a work camp. They'd been there for a week when they walked off. And interestingly enough, the authorities took down the all points bulletin, APB, that they had escaped within 48 hours. Now, I saw them about, let's see, it would have been maybe 73. I know Yuko Babu, who still runs the Pan African Film Festival in LA, myself and some other people, we were trying to raise money for Frelimo. That's the gorillas in Mozambique. And we had Aretha Franklin, Taj Mahal, Pharaoh Sanders, Stevie Wonder. They all donated their services free of charge, and they had one hell of a concert they gave at a place called the Palladium on Hollywood Boulevard. Well, the US organization wanted $5,000 to do a rubber boot dance, imitating some black folks sweeping gutters in South Africa who wore rubber boots. I thought it was ridiculous and told everybody that was organizing the thing not to pay it. They wound up doing it for free once they found out what the deal was. So at this function, I'm walking through the crowd and here these two that were supposed to be in prison for second degree murder, they were sitting at a table. I said, man, what are you two doing out? Oh, man, we escaped. Damn. And the backstory is 25 years after that, they got tired of running and they attempted to surrender themselves, but the California authorities weren't interested and told them to go home. Interestingly enough, they still would not have finished serving their sentences for second degree murder, but they got told, "Go on home. We don't want you."
Um, yeah, let me say something, Judge. You were talking about I had a friend of mine, and he actually told me he liked a video that you must have had with Brother Ron Heard about holidays, and he said that he likes the fact that,
Kwanzaa.
well, it's just holidays in general, like like you said about even at Christmas, you don't you rather the only thing did you wanted to shoot the reindeer. You don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I like New Year's. It's a nice festival, all right. Fourth of July is noisy, boisterous. I like that. Christmas, I'm so damn sick of those Christmas carols. I've been listening to the same old dead funeral dirges. I can remember being 2 years old and not liking them. I've heard them over and over and over and over and over and more and more and more and again and again. No damn wonder so many people kill themselves listening to that messed up music. It's like, come on, stop this stuff. Come up with something new. And everybody's running around, when broke down rides, going to the mall, spending all the way. The credit is long gone, checks overdrawn, spending, buying stuff for trifling kids and friends. It's like crazy.
Well, let's say
Uh,
this.
but yeah, Kwanzaa, I wouldn't celebrate Kwanzaa because Karinga and his folks started it. It's Swahili, and Swahili is not African. Swahili is a pidgin language composed of Arabic, Dutch, with a smattering of Bantu thrown in there, and it was used on the East African coast to facilitate the East African slave trade all the way up to the 20th century. If you want to get an African dialect, learn Bantu. That's what is spoken in the area that's native. But Swahili is a pidgin language that the Dutch and the Arabs came up with so they could facilitate their communications with the natives when they were buying ivory and slaves. Go
Okay,
figure.
well, I want to say something about like we were talking about one day. What were we talking about? Symbolism, right?
Yes, symbolism.
Juneteenth, Juneteenth. Now which we know
I
about it,
won't
but
celebrate that either.
okay, we'll go ahead and
And
tell.
it's revisionism. See, look, we were taught about Juneteenth when I was in elementary school, junior high, high school, even touched on it in some studies in college. Juneteenth is June 19th, 1866. In the last 4 or 5 years, they've revised it and tried to make it 1865 so it isn't so embarrassing. See, the Emancipation Proclamation was in April 1863. That meant you weren't supposed to be a slave if you were in the South. If the master could keep you down there and you didn't have what it took to get on up, well, that's your fault. But then, January 1865, the 13th Amendment was sent out to the states and it got ratified. April 1865, Lee signed articles of surrender to Ulysses Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. And at the end of the following month, Johnson surrendered to Sherman. The war was over. Some black cavalrymen went down through Texas on a recon. They found the Negroes down there and told them they were free, but the Negroes didn't believe the colored troops, so they stayed in slavery a year and a half after the Civil War was over. A year and 2 months after the Civil War was over. 3 years after they'd been freed by Massa Lincoln, a year and a half after the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery had gone over, these stupid fools were down there still being slaves until some officers on a Union cruiser docked down there in Texas. And when the white folk told them they were free, then they believed it. So, no, I'm not celebrating Juneteenth.
Well, let me ask you a question,
Mm-mm.
Judge. As I sent you some things, even out of Virginia, that the statue bearing and the statue taken down and everything. What does that have to do with the death of George Floyd? I mean, seriously. I mean, this is like symbolism and
Symbolism.
pandering. I thought we were talking about George Floyd
Symbolism.
death. So we got them.
You got a bunch of little ratchet white girl cupcakes out there. It was an ecology event. It's not trees, but they're saving the colored from cruelty. So this is one of their ecological things, like they go protest over the seals and the whales and the polar bear, and Oscar being chained out in the cold with no love in 1995 a month to prevent cruelty to animals. I guess they're going to start taking up a collection for 1995 a month to prevent cruelty to the colored. So, you know, you look at these things, look at the news feeds. You can get them. You don't have to wait for the news media to choose what they're going to pick. You'll see that maybe out of every 10 or 11 people, nine of them are white. And it's not a black thing. It's a white guilt trip, or else, they've been confined to the cabin with COVID-19. So they're suffering cabin fever. So they're out there having one hell of a spring break and
We say
get
we're dead
rowdy.
in the nerd.
Like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we were in the hotel last week, man, and we trashed the place, man. I was high, man, and we got drunk, man, and we just broke everything up, man, on the 12th floor, man. And then we went down to the 10th, man, and we wrecked that too, man. We had a good time, man. See, they do stuff like that.
Okay, I got two things to come back to get with you on. I was talking to when I was at the gun range yesterday. I saw that a lot of women are coming with their boyfriend. Women coming shooting now. Women are getting guns more. Black men are getting guns more. So, hey, I mean, hey, maybe it's that time where we're living in, but also it also goes to show you that I was also talking to a woman. She told me she got a black son, right? And she got to make sure that he's protected from police and etc. But I want to get to something you've been saying lately, and I appreciate your thing on because you say what you're saying. You say man up, don't you? Isn't that what you say, man up?
Man up. Don't protect the boy from the police. Teach him, yeah, teach the boy how to protect himself.
Okay.
See, that the way we think is stupid. Mothers should be teaching their boys how to protect themselves, not trying to protect the boy. Because they never teach the boy how to protect themselves. So the boy grows up, mama protected him. And see, also, all of these righteous brothers in the penitentiary, like hell. More than one of these creeps that are in the penitentiary, I can remember having petitions to suppress a confession. And locally, the police always videoed the confession. So we're getting ready to have a hearing, and we're taking a recess, waiting for the lawyers to get back and finish up other business. And I've had the guy brought up from lockup, and he's out there, and his homie's in the audience, and he's bragging, "Yeah, man, like I'm down for the cause, man. The OG thing, man. Hey, man, they just sit there and put word, man. I didn't do it, man. They lying, man. I didn't say none of that, man. They trying to act like I got some kind of confession, man. I wouldn't do that." So, all right, the lawyers get back. I say, "Gentlemen, is everyone ready? Well, let us retire to chambers where we will take a look at this. Madam Court Reporter, how long before you can set up? 5 minutes. Thank you, ma'am. Everybody, the court will see you in 5 minutes in chambers." Go back there. OG out in the courtroom, still going for bad. What you see is him got snot running down his nose, tears running down his face, crying. He was, "My mama. Y'all let me talk to my mama." Well, sir, you have a right to have an attorney, but your mother can't be, "I want nobody. I want my mama." You're like, punk. And see, I'd always expose that nonsense. I'd get back out and say, "Gentlemen, the court has viewed the tape of the confession. The defendant was advised on no less than 7 occasions that he had a right to an attorney and the right to remain silent. He waived it. I noticed the stains on the 4 written waivers are apparently tears. The defendant had a lot of mucus running out of his nose and tears out of his eyes and went through and looked through the court like half a box of Kleenex, crying. And instead of talking about his rights, he wanted his mama present or his mother. He kept crying about his mother. And it is also apparent that he kept trying to implicate certain other defendants in this cause and gave the names to law enforcement and aptly described what their parts in the crime were, because he said he'd do that if he could just talk to his mama. And he wasn't talking about a girlfriend, he was talking about his mother from the description he gave and his conduct. So the court's going to admit the confession. Petition to or motion to suppress the confession will be denied. You know, punk him out. He's punk him out.
Well, let me ask you a question. So,
Everybody thinks these people got railroaded, but you see, 84 to 87% of everybody in the penitentiary confessed. Now, some of them, the confessions were not good ones, but for most it was. Next thing is 97.6 to 97.8% of the people in the penitentiaries pled guilty. They didn't get found guilty. I would try to talk defendants into going to trial, but they would tell me they were scared. They didn't want to. They were nervous about what would happen if they did not uh, survived the trial process, and I try to explain to them at great length about presumptions of innocence and subpoena and what lawyers do. And are you sure this is what you want to do? Did your lawyer do what you asked him to do? Did you give him a list of witnesses? Did he talk to them? Are you satisfied with his performance? Now, look, before the court accepts this plea, is there anything you want to tell the court about this plea that's dissatisfying you other than, say, perhaps the amount of time? Do you have any regrets to this, etc.? I mean, you talk to somebody 20 minutes. You're not just saying, okay, he's pleading guilty. See, guys sit there and talk all kinds of smack to mama about how they got railroaded. But if you actually heard the thing that went on between them and their lawyers and the court, you would find that a lot of them were anxious to plead guilty because they knew that the case was strong against them. By the way, people talk too damn much. Most of these cases could not be solved if the person had not confessed. And a lot of these people would walk if they had the balls to go to trial, but most of them are chumps and punks and cowards, and they don't have the cojones to go to trial.
Well, let me
It's
ask you a
like,
question.
young man, the court is attempting to persuade you to go to trial. Go ahead.
Well, you remember you were saying that
Yeah,
don't
go
try
ahead.
to get out of jury duty, go to jury duty, be more of a lawyer, try to be your state judge, attorney. But we don't do that. I mean, he's just trying to figure out
Yeah, in other
some.
words, black folk, if you don't, yeah, black folk, if you don't like what's going on in the system, pay attention to kindergarten through 12th grade, get in college, get your degree, get a law degree, and go in there and defend somebody and uphold the law when it comes to your people. If you get called for jury service, sit on the damn jury. Use your head when you answer these questions so you don't give too much material for somebody to automatically exclude you. Stop trying to get out of doing your civic duty, because justice is just us when everybody's trying to bail on it. I still get called. Judge, what can I do? I got to call. No, I'm not going to tell you how to get out. Go serve. But I serve. You've been bitching to me for years about justice being wrong. Now participate in it.
Well, now I know you know some things like the reason I think, like you said, a lot of things we don't get involved in. Like you told me about let's say, the political process, like we vote on emotion, right? Or what we see like right now. I mean, of course, this is
Mm-hmm.
opinion polls. Now, like I looked at a thing the other day. 33% of people want Joe Biden to drop out his own party, right? But if you got the media telling you that he's the best thing since sliced bread and he's the worst thing and probably needs to be somewhere in a body bag itself. So, just bringing that up to you.
Well, I'm not going to say that. See, let me say something. Let me say something. Read between the lines. I'm not going to tell you to go armed for a revolution, because that would guarantee that if you followed me, there'd be no revolution, because people would be breathing down your neck and you'd be a target for surveillance and you'd be hassled or prosecuted. So you'd go broke trying to defend yourself if you did that. So I'm not going to say go do this, but you should be armed as a matter of self-defense, because it's a dangerous world. Same thing with the rest of this. Now, yeah, these things that we're talking about right now, this is not a forum to start talking openly about doing certain things. That's just not good, because you become a target and they paint a bullseye on your back. Get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, what was the question again?
The question is about
Biden.
Biden. Yes, the media prop him
Yeah,
up.
I know. I'm just saying. I got, I got you. You was a comment, but I'm just saying, with the rest of what you were saying, it was a word up 411 thing I was giving you. Now,
Okay.
Biden has been an old time racist. 1967, I remember vividly when George Wallace was campaigning for Biden in Delaware, the smallest state in the Union. And for those who don't know who George Wallace was, he was segregation now, segregation forever. The Negro will not be allowed to move himself into white society.
Mm.
And Biden got on his first state office. Now, about that time, 1967, and later, Biden was spouting nonsense about he was sorry that Delaware did not secede and go with the South during the Civil War and deal with the greater glory. And the South should have had Delaware, since Delaware was a slave holding state, and Biden approved. He also said it in 1967 and 8, and again in 1977, that allowing Negroes into public schools was making them zoos because the Negroes were animals. And he said he wasn't going to let his kids attend a zoo populated by animals. Talking about us. And then I remember looking at this live on a little bitty portable black and white TV I had in my office in the 70s. Biden was having a ceremony for Wallace, Faubus, Stennis, all of these old line racists. And it was just disgraceful. He was saying that they were his mentors, his role models, and he promised to devote the rest of his professional career to following in their footsteps. You know, and that's the person that everybody is supposed to be voting for if they're black. Trump's a racist. Hell, I've never heard Trump say anything like Biden. I've heard CNN say that Trump's a racist, but you know, I just hear an ordinary guy talking smack like, you know, we talk smack. If somebody recorded everything that you and I or anybody else said, it would sound very racist. And that's just the way things happen. He talked about grab the pussy, but he had some half naked bimbo he was referring to wanted to get on one of his private jet planes. Yeah, of course. And you had some little punk ass queerness type who betrayed the code and taped it so others could listen. So, you know, come on now. People
You been to
aren't
a beauty
saints.
salon
I'd
before,
rather
Judge?
have a real man who talks smack.
You
What's
been to a
that?
beauty salon before?
Yeah.
You ever heard our women talk in the beauty salon?
Oh yeah, I had my first mother-in-law ran a beauty salon, and I'd have to run errands, and it'd make my ears burn listening to what they had to say. Girl, look, do you see that package you got, girl? I'd like to get my own girl. You know, hey, honey, I had blah 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 blah. Damn, that's raw.
Well, when
But
you get out
anyway,
the
all people are like that. So let's not be too sanctimonious about it and start acting like we're in church when we're not. And then even in church, all these old sisters, mamas of the church wearing no panties and no bras, so the preacher get a good view. And they get tagged after services or after choir practice in the middle of the week or Bible study. They stay a couple of extra hours to get some more intensive education in the book. But, you know,
well,
reality is what it is. So
well, I
back
got
to this thing, CNNC. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring up one thing, and I know you got a term to call Black Families Matter, right? So we got to get back to Black Families Matter because
Yes, that's
we've been diverted away
well.
from
So
Black families for so
that
long. That
was my thing about BFM. Yeah,
Black
see, that was my thing about BFM. Black folk matter, black families matter, black fathers matter, black finance matters, black fealty matters, black fraternity matters. I'm not talking about frats. I'm talking about black brotherhood, black faith matters, black fiduciary responsibility matters. You know, in other words, you your brother's keeper, the whole doggone thing. Black friendship matters. You can do all kinds of things, but that black lesbians matter, bitch lesbian mania that comes out of BLM is ridiculous. It was founded by four lesbians, one of whom has a white lesbian husband, wife, or whatever it is, and they took something somebody had on a poster at Ferguson, and they had planning. They incorporated it, and now it is a fundraising entity where they get themselves a big salary on a yearly basis. They get funded to go around the world and start spreading this queerness doctrine. And by the way, Africa's very mad about that. I had a good friend who was a roommate in college. He's involved with the Nigerian government, and he called me up to tell me his upset that they had brought 3 representatives over, recommended by BLM headquarters, such as it was. And when they got over there, they started pushing that queerness thing. And he said the cabinet got very upset. They had told the American State Department they didn't play that. They did not appreciate this front organization going over there to push this poison because they weren't buying it. And they've been going around the world funding it, and history is recording this as the Black Lives Matter movement. You might make a connection between the civil rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, in that, to a great extent, both are creatures of the press. As I said earlier, all of these guys that had been GIs in World War II and Korea weren't going to be down on any knees getting beat across the head by anybody. They were, we're going to take care of business. A lot of them did.
Well,
But the press put it out that everybody was being peaceful and down on their knees.
well, I would just want to say this to you, Judge. It's always good to talk to you. You got a right mind. I like that you always push man up, because in the time today we need more men. I mean, we have them, but I mean, I don't consider you no man when I see you in a dress like Silly Porter, right? So I'm glad that you've always spoke your mind about manhood, because manhood is good. I mean, being 33 years old, we should be pushing our own legacy forward, but we got a lot of nonsense in our way right now. So it's always good to pick your brain and find out examples that because at the end of the day we got to lead the new generation, and you won't be here forever, I won't be here forever. So hey, you got to leave a legacy to people. And I'm glad that you actually able to speak about the man up stuff. So
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
see, look, we got to stop this mess that's going on right now. Like that article I think we shared where black trans are talking about they're leading the black empowerment movement or the black struggle. What in the hell is that? You know,
Yeah.
freak of the week. You got a drag queen that's supposed to be leading the man charge. Oh no.
Well,
See, that's the other thing. So we need to start exercising our First Amendment rights so we don't forget what that feels like. This whole thing of everybody's supposed to be suppressed if somebody feels uncomfortable is bad. Uh, I would call them something else, but they'd ban your production from the air because you
hate
use something comparable to the N word that they like to use for us. And they insult us by calling us cisgender instead of just man and woman, or straight. I'm no damn cis. Screw you, sissy boy. Sissy boy, but they can call us cisgender. Or man, or sir, you got a dick and I'm calling you sir, and you want to raise hell because I'm not treating you as a woman. No, I'm not treating you as a woman, fool. You got a dick. You don't got what I'd be interested in. So you got the same equipment as me. That makes you a sir. But you see, people get castigated for calling freaks sir. You can call them queer, I guess, because they claim queer in their own publications.
well,
But we got to start thinking in terms of First Amendment.
remember you said about reverse discrimination?
Take it back. It's
Reverse
not
discrimination.
something that, well, yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. But see, yeah, thanks for reminding me. You got me early in the morning. I haven't had 2 hours sleep yet. But anyway, look, I'm getting old. can't stay up too long, don't work too well after that. Start getting chest pains and stuff. But yeah, see, we once had affirmative action, and the claim is that because black people had suffered, some other minorities had suffered so badly at the hands of the mainstream society that they needed some compensation. That's a form of reparations, I suppose. And the benefits were called affirmative action. Let more black folk in, hire more black folk, dole out more federal or city or county or state contracts. But you see, the claim was that discriminated against whites, so that was reverse discrimination. And that killed affirmative action. Well, all animals are equal, but the pigs are more equal, and it looks like the queer folk get more rights than the straight folk do. So that looks like reverse discrimination to me. Queer folk can say anything they want on media and nothing's done to them, but if anybody black, brown, red, yellow, purple, pink, white says anything against the Skittles or the queer crowd, then they get cut off. They get held for hate speech. They get held for all kinds of things. They get fired. And this Mariah Carey's ex-husband, he came out, said he was an original Jew, Hebrew, and he wasn't even on his television show or television production, but Viacom fired him. But that looks to me like that's racial discrimination because somebody didn't want anybody black claiming to be part of their religion or being an original founder of their religion. And it's discrimination based on religion. So that's under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. But he copped out, started apologizing when they started messing with his money.
I got a
Frankly, he should get a regular job like everybody else and be glad he got the change when he got a chance to get a lot of change. But, that's reverse discrimination.
well, let's say about us with the
You
reverse
got to worry
discrimination.
about that.
Let me say something about the reverse discrimination. So, like you saying, if like so you were saying one day, if you call me a nigga, you I can't call you a
N-word,
faggot,
yeah, you might get busted in the mouth.
but nothing legally will
Right.
happen to you.
See, it's like, for example, yeah, see, like, for example, a friend's son had a home. He was in his 40s, and some gay folk moved on the block, and they wanted him to put a rainbow flag up. He refused, so they started getting their dogs to walk on his lawn and crap on it and not pick the stuff up as per city regulation. So he videoed this. So he caught one, whatever, queer couple. They walked their dog into the middle of the yard of his yard, had the dog crap in the middle of his yard, didn't pick it up. He came out the door and said, "What the hell's going on? Pick that up," et cetera, et cetera. He was recording it, and they called him the N word, talked about his mama. He called him the F word. There was some interchanges, and they ran down to the local precinct to swear out a warrant for hate crime. So they went to trial. He played the tape. Hell, I heard the tape. And they're using the N word and some other scandalous things, just throwing a lot of this in there. And he called him the F word, and he got found guilty of hate crime. 30 days suspended, 1129, $2,500 fine, and 250 hours of community service.
Well,
Calling
I
somebody the N word is not hate crime. And see,
well,
the other bit too is When in the hell did the First Amendment get abridged because somebody got uncomfortable behind what was said? That's what's going on now. Oh my God, you made someone feel bad. You have to apologize. Or you said something made somebody feel bad. We'll fire you from your job, which chills somebody's exercise of their First Amendment rights. See, this is not necessarily something you have to do on the job to get fired. You can do it on your own time, but they will fire you. Now, we help drive that because we say somebody had on Klan paraphernalia. Fire him. Well, remember it goes around. When you have law, it's a two-edged sword. It swings both ways.
Well, I
Quite
want
frankly, I don't get this about being uncomfy.
well,
Go
let me
ahead.
say something to you, Judge.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that we talked about the Equality Act and a lot of things. People need to follow you on Twitter, man, because you put a lot of interesting stuff out there in the media, and I know they shadow block you and ban you and stuff like that. Because I know somebody like you don't have no blue check, and people know who you are, so you ain't got no blue check. They trying to show you that you're not a famous person, huh?
Well, yeah, but see, I just got some white guy came in yesterday. I ought to be ashamed trying to use this noble person's name to say some of the things I'm saying about manhood. Go figure. So every now and then I do a video clip. Yeah, this is the real me. You're looking at this is the site at Judge Joe Brown TV. This is me. And I just should go check the site out, check the media. You'll see me authenticating it. I'm assuming you recognize my voice and image. So that voice and image is telling you at Judge Joe Brown TV is the real deal, even though there's no blue check. I didn't hear from him anymore, but he was upset that I was slandering the real Judge Joe Brown by putting out all of this manhood cisgender nonsense.
Well, I'm glad that you do tweet out the Twitter. I know they might block you or subscribe, unsubscribe your followers and not give you credit, but somebody getting the message out because I mean, a lot of people been pointing out that BLM thing, and they changed their website after people started catching on to the
Oh,
after.
yeah. When we got on that, they changed their website and hid that what we believe.
That's right.
I tell you one thing. Actually, I don't care whether they boot me off or not because what I was tweeting for had multiple facets to it. One of them is that interacting with the people who tweet back and reply is a good way to stay focused when you're writing a book. So I am writing a book using tweets. These tweets become captions that get expanded upon. So that will be forthcoming. So
Well,
is
well,
what it is. You got me at a wrong time. I am real tired, but yeah,
well,
I'm not exactly focused this morning.
well,
I
well,
got to bed about. You called me up. What did you call me up? Very early, but hell, I hadn't been asleep even 45 minutes when you called me this morning. I stay up late at night and read a lot.
well, that's all right. Well,
I don't slop hogs. I don't feed chickens and I don't milk cows. So I keep late night hours and morning. There's nothing going on in the morning that I give a damn about other than the sun coming up, but it can come up without me. So I'll uh, do my thing with the snooze about that time. But yeah, brother, I don't mind coming on for you.
well, it's all right. Well, I want you to just get some rest and you know, keep pushing the man up thing. A lot of people here gonna push the man up movement. I hope we can push it
Well,
down
I can't get any
here.
rest because I got to do another radio show soon. I got to do
well,
another radio show looking at the time as soon as I get off here.
well, that's all right. Well,
But
you
yeah,
take care and Do your show. Best of well wishes to you, and keep on pushing the man up movement. And we'll talk again soon.
Oh,
Thank you.
well, you gotta get me again. But let me just say this: people, stay focused, have courage, have bravery, study, pay attention to what's going on in your world. Everything is not basketball or Atlanta Housewives. There is a reality out there. Spend as much time on that reality as you do on your distractions and entertainment. Remember, you have had a game run on you for the last 50 years where dysfunction has been glorified. You have not had any focus on political or real leadership. You have had everything put to you in terms of celebrities. So, right now, we're looking to celebrities as our leaders, and celebrities are not your leaders unless they are political leaders. Now, I guess I'm a celebrity, but I was 50 some years old before they discovered me. And if I have anything to say, it's not as TV star, it's as judge, attorney,
That's right.
activist, back when in the 60s, throwing down, and I paid my dues and still pay my damn dues. So listen to me that way. Stay focused. Get yourself a good pistol. Get a good 12 gauge shotgun, a Mossberg or a Remington. Get an M4 carbine clone. Get yourself 1,000 rounds of ammunition to stay in your house for each of those so you will have it. And get you 1,000 rounds or so you can practice with and learn how to use it. Take
Well,
some courses, get yourself a carry permit, carry regularly if you can where you live and you don't live in some republic of something, something, something.
all right. Well,
Now, with that said, stay focused, keep breathing, pay
and
attention.
all right, Judge. Well, you have a nice day. Thanks for coming on. I hope you get
I'm
some
out of
rest.
here.
All right, brother.
All right, cool. Later on.